Today's online classes for students pursuing engineering and information technology, semester 4, subject algorithm analysis and design, module 5, topic dynamic programming, all pair shortest path problem. For handling today's class, we have Dr. Smita Mol MB, HOD, Department of Computer Science Engineering, LBS College of Engineering, Kasaragod. She completed her BTech from GC Thrissur and MTech from NIT and PhD from Chennai. She have a total experience of 19 years and she has more than 15 publications under her name. It's our pleasure you are here with us today, ma'am. Over to you. Thank you.
Dear students, good morning to all of you. In today's lecture, we are going to see an important topic in the syllabus that is mentioned in module 5, that is dynamic programming. And this paradigm is very important and it has been explained with an example, all pair shortest path problem. Okay, let us see what is meant by dynamic programming. In short, we will call it DP. What is actually dynamic programming? As I told you, it is an algorithmic design paradigm. Okay, we have seen different design paradigms like divide and conquer, greedy, backtracking. Last week, we have seen a paradigm like backtracking. Then there are other paradigms like a branch and bound. Then what is this dynamic programming? How it differs from other paradigm? That is very important. Okay, I hope that everybody is familiar with a paradigm called a divide and conquer. Okay, divide and conquer is a simple paradigm, and if you know merge sort or quicksort, those algorithms falls in divide and conquer. In both dynamic programming and divide and conquer, a common approach is divide a very complicated or a complex problem into subproblems. And these subproblems, this division and the property of the subproblems differ in dynamic programming and divide and conquer. Okay. And in divide and conquer, each subproblem is independent and they never overlap with other subproblem. Then another thing is, whenever a subproblem is encountered, you have to solve it each time. And these things does not happen in dynamic programming. It also, okay, see the first point here, you can see that it also solves problem by compiling solution to smaller subproblems. At this point, students may think that this is same as divide and conquer. No, the subsequent points explains the important characteristic of dynamic programming. Here the subproblems are not independent, whereas in the case of divide and conquer, each subproblem is independent. Okay. Here comes the difference. Here the subproblems are not independent and we need to solve each subproblem exactly once. We are never going to solve it repeatedly. Okay, if you assume or visualize a tree in your mind, then assume that each branch or each node is going to be a subproblem. And if the same subproblem occurs in different branches of the tree, like left and right, then we have to solve that subproblem only once. That means you are going to memorize or you are going to store the result of the subproblem solved somewhere. And that is actually the second word here, programming. Programming means not coding. This is actually a tabular method. And normally using this tabular method, we proceed conquering the problem in a bottom-up manner. Okay. And whenever a subproblem is solved, we will store its result in this table. And as and when we proceed further, and if we need the answer to the subproblem again, we need not solve it. We can have a simple lookup into the table and take the value. It's just like memorizing. Okay. This is the important feature of dynamic programming. This you can't find in divide and conquer. Okay. And another thing is dynamic programming applies or it is effective only when subproblems share subproblems. That is an overlapping of subproblems. Otherwise, we have to apply a divide and conquer. That means the same subproblem arises in different branches of the tree so that we have to solve it only once. Then we are saving our time. In this scenario, we can apply dynamic programming. Whereas if you are using divide and conquer for this overlapping subproblems, then it does more work by repeatedly solving the same subproblem, the common subproblem again and again. That means divide and conquer will be doing more work there. That is actually a failure. Okay, don't worry, it's quite simple. Dynamic programming also solves problems by dividing a complex problem into subproblem. But here you have to observe a very important property, that is subproblems are not independent and they share common subproblems, and we have to solve this common subproblem only once and save the answer in a tabular method. And here the word programming is not meant for coding. Since we are storing it in tabular table format, we are using the word programming. Okay. If any doubts, you can note it down and you can ask. Okay. Then these are again a DP algorithm. A dynamic programming algorithm solves each subproblem exactly once. Then it saves this answer in a table, just like memorizing. This avoids the work of recomputing the answer every time. Okay, whenever that subproblem arises again and again, then we need not perform a recomputing. Okay. Then another thing where we can apply this dynamic programming. Dynamic programming typically applicable to optimization problems. Somewhere you are going to optimize a value, maximizing a profit or minimizing a cost, something like that. In that paradigm, we can apply the dynamic programming. Okay. And there are some important features of dynamic programming. And this will help you to conquer or analyze a problem and design a dynamic programming algorithm for solving that problem. And these steps will help you to design a dynamic programming algorithm. Okay. And first one is, since it falls or since it mainly applies for optimization problem, and one more thing, it always divides the problems into subproblems, we have to characterize the structure of an optimal solution. What is the final solution? What is the characteristic of the optimal solution? That we have to formulate. Either you can mathematically formulate, that is quite easy to mathematically formulate, or you can have a theorem-like statement and you can formulate something like that, optimal solution. This step will be more clear whenever we encounter a specific example. Okay, these are generic steps. Then another thing, as with other paradigm, here also we are defining the optimal solution by recursive functions. Recursively define the value of an optimal solution. In this recursive definition, we can use the previously computed value. That means those values are available from the table where we are storing. Okay. Then compute the value of an optimal solution in a bottom-up fashion. This is the generic one. Normally, whenever we are using a table, we will be going from bottom to top. Construct the optimal solution from the computed information. What is actually your computed information? This table. From this table, finally, you have to write a function to print or display the final answer. And therefore, the important step is these three. These three steps are very important. The last one, definitely one will be knowing how to construct or print or display the final answer from this. Okay. These are the important characteristic of or the steps in developing a dynamic programming algorithm. Okay. Then, since we apply, this DP applies for an optimization problem. Here you can see the first step is characterize the structure of an optimal solution, and there will be a policy defined. Okay, this characterization is called designing an optimal policy, and that policy will be a rule that will be determining or helps you to take a decision at each step or stage. And this policy, what you have designed just now, is called an optimal policy if it finally gives you the global optimal solution. Global means the solution for the complete problem. Then optimal solution can be a solution to the subproblem also. Whenever we use the word global optimal, this is the final answer to the whole problem. Okay. Then principle of optimality, it states that optimal sequence of decisions, because this is a bottom-up fashion approach, we will be dividing the complex problems into sub-problems, and we need to take decision at each step. Okay, then what we have to do? This decisions at each step will be leading to a final global optimal solution. Then that principle is correct to optimal policy, and this is actually called the principle of optimality. It states that optimal sequence of decisions in a multi-stage decision problem is feasible if and only if its subsequences are also optimal. This is very important. If and only if its subsequences are also optimal. That means if we say that some algorithm we have designed, it produces the final global optimal solution, then it should also produce, okay, we will be conquering the final problem by sub-problems, and the sub-problem answer should also be optimal. Sub-problem sequences should also be optimal. Then only those sub-problem subsequences involved in the final answer will lead to a global optimal solution. Okay. Then here, these are the important points regarding dynamic programming. And I told you at the first moment, since you are hearing it first time, it will be little tough to grasp the ideas regarding dynamic programming. But I'm sure that this is a very simple one. And once you understood a specific example, it is easy to understand dynamic programming. Okay. Okay, students. Now we will see an example. An example here is, there are many examples mentioned in the syllabus. I have chosen a simple one, that is all pair shortest path problem. And before going for all pair shortest path problem, you should have an idea regarding shortest path problem. Okay, you should have an idea regarding what is shortest path problem. Shortest path problem has got significance in real world also. If you are traveling through many cities, you will be interested in shortest path problem or minimum cost problem. This is actually an optimization problem. You are optimizing the distance. And if you are interested in cost, you will optimize the cost. Okay, here we have considered the distance. That is why shortest path problem. And to visualize the problem or the connected cities or an atlas, here we are using a directed graph. And you can imagine vertices are actually the cities and edges are actually the path connecting two cities. And weight, there are three parameters. It is a triplet. A directed graph G equal to V, E, W. V is the set of vertices and you should imagine it as cities. And E is actually the distance, or sorry, E is the road or some path connecting the cities. And W is actually the weight. W stands for weight, edge weight, and this edge weight can be the distance. If it is a shortest path problem and if we are focusing on distance, and this edge weight is going to be the distance from city 1 to city 2. Okay, and here our objective is to optimize the distance. And here it will be giving you the shortest path problem, and here the triplet is V, E, W. And W is actually the weight function and it is mapping to the real domain. It is mapping to the real domain. It is real, not positive integers. It is a real domain. The edge can also have a negative weight. And the question is, what is the shortest or the lightest path between two vertices? And these vertices are going to be two cities. Okay. And the input will be this weighted directed graph with the triplet V, E, W, and a start vertex and end vertex will be there. And for that you will have, if you start from vertex U and if you end in vertex V, that means city U and city V, there is what is the shortest path. That is actually our expected one. Then the minimal weight of a path from U to V, that's a value, delta. The distance is actually delta of U comma V. And this is minimum of weight of P, where the path from U to V is P. Okay, it is the minimum. There are many paths from city U to city V. And we have to take the minimum one if such a path exists. Otherwise, the minimum cost is going to be infinitely. That is a very large value. There is no such path. And here the weight of the path from V0 to Vk is, if this is the path, how will you find out the weight? If your source starting vertex is V0, V0, and your ending vertex is Vk, and you are traveling from V0, V1, V2, etc., Vk, then how will you find out the weight of the path? It's quite easy. You have to simply add up the weight of each path. W of P, weight of the path P, is summation of weights of each edge involved, that is Vi minus 1 to Vi, where I will be varying from 1 to k. Okay. And this path is going to be the minimal path. And here I hope you understood that this is actually an optimization problem, shortest path problem. And shortest paths also exhibit optimal substructure property. This is very important. That is actually the first point in DP. Characterize the structure of an optimal solution. How you are going to characterize the structure of an optimal solution? This is one characterization. And here you know that if our path V1, V2, V3, if our path is V1, V2, V3, just assume that V1 to V3, there are three paths. One is V1, V2, V3. Another one is V1, V4, V3. Another one is V1, V5, V3. And assume that V1, V4, V3 is the shortest path. Then V1 to V4 is also going to be a shortest path. That is actually the optimal substructure property. Each subpath, if final path is optimal, then each subpath will also going to be an optimal one. Okay. And here, this is the explanation. Okay, if you are seeing that path, this is actually a lemma, and you are supposed to learn it in, I hope, in module 3, like whenever you have learned Dijistra's shortest path algorithm or Bellman-Ford single source shortest path algorithm. Whereas dynamic programming typically applies to all pair shortest path problem. Okay, that were actually single source shortest path problem. That means from a particular city to a destination, that is actually the shortest path, which is going to be the shortest path. If V0 is the source vertex and Vk is going to be the destination, which is going to be the shortest path. Suppose we are traveling like this, V0 to Vi, Vi to Vj, then Vj to Vk, then you can see that this path P0i, this path Pij, this path Pjk. And if this is going to be the shortest path, each subpath is also going to be the shortest one. This will be the shortest one from V0 to Vi. This will be the shortest path from Vi to Vj. And this will be the shortest path from Vj to Vk. If not, what you could have done? You could have deleted. If there were exists a more or a less shortest path than the current or the existing one, then you could have deleted this and substituted with the new path Pij dash. That will result in the lesser shortest path compared to your optimal solution. And that is a contradiction that can never happen. Therefore, this is going to be the path. Okay, this is actually a lemma. And moreover, students, I have prepared this PPT based on the chapter Dynamic Programming and All Pair Shortest Path Problem from the textbook Introduction to Algorithms by Corman, Learson and Rivest. And you can also refer the textbook. And this is actually a lemma in the textbook, and this has been proved. Okay. And here, whenever we are going for an all pair shortest path problem, if there are 5 cities, then all pair 1 to 2, 1 to 3, 1 to 4, 1 to 5, then 2 to 3, 2 to 4, 2 to 5, all pairs of cities, what is going to be the shortest path? That is actually the question. Previously, I have been discussing with you the single source shortest path. Now I have moved to all pair shortest path, and all pair shortest path, just imagine that say graph. The graph represents 5 cities. Then all possible pairs of combination of the cities, what is going to be the shortest path? Then if there is no negative edges, no negative weight, then Dijistra's algorithm we can apply. That means Dijistra's algorithm is actually for single source shortest path. That we can run for vertices n. Then the complexity will be order of d cube using the And these are the complexities whenever we are going for the better implementation. Okay, when there is no negative cycles, we will apply the Floyd-Warshall algorithm. Okay, negative weight cycle. Negative edge means a weight, an edge carries negative weight, -4. A to B is an edge, then it carries -4, that is actually a negative edge. Negative cycle means A to B and B to A, both are negative edge. Then the cost from A to B, that loop will be going on reducing. That means how many times you traverse, the cost will be reducing. You cannot find an optimal value. Okay, that won't happen in real life also. Therefore, whenever there is no negative cycles, you can apply the Floyd-Warshall algorithm. And when there is negative cycle, you can go for Bellman-Ford algorithm or Johnson's algorithm. Okay, Bellman-Ford is also a single source shortest path algorithm, but that you can apply repeatedly for all the vertices. If there are 5 vertices, put inside a for loop for I equal to 1 to 5, called the Bellman-Ford algorithm. Then the Bellman-Ford algorithm, the complexity is V square E edge. Edge is actually the number of edges existing here will be V square. Therefore, the total complexity is going to be O big of V raised to 4. Okay, and this is also polynomial, but it is not better compared to the Floyd-Warshall algorithm. Therefore, this is the good algorithm in all pair shortest path algorithm that we will be discussing now. Okay, so far we have seen the characteristic of dynamic programming and what is actually a shortest path problem, what is actually an all pair shortest path problem. Okay, and here once again recall your memory. The dynamic programming approach characterizes the structure of the optimal solution, recursively define the value of an optimal solution, compute the value of an optimal solution in a bottom-up fashion. These are the very important 3 steps. One more step is there. From this table, you have to print the final answer. Okay. But at present, we are concentrating on first 3 steps and the structure of an optimal solution. And this is how we are going to format the structure of an all pair. So optimal solution for our problem, all pair shortest path. All pair shortest path. Consider a shortest path, say P, from vertex I to vertex J. And suppose that this path P contains at most M edges. How many edges? At most M edges. Assume also that for simplicity, there are no negative weight cycle. If there is a negative weight cycle, I told you, A to B, a negative edge, B to A also a negative weight, then A to B, B to A. Suppose A to B is -2 and B to A is -1, then A to B, B to A, the cost is -3 and it will be again going on reducing. Okay, and there is no meaning in that. Okay, that should not happen in real life also. Therefore, assume that there are no negative weight cycle and hence here M will be always less than or equal to N minus 1. Therefore, negative weight means you will be going on traveling through that loop to reduce the cost. That should not happen. And we cannot terminate the algorithm. Okay, therefore, if there is no negative weight, then at most M edge means M can be less than or equal to N minus 1. That means if there are 5 vertices, then 1 to 5, vertex 1 to vertex 5, how many intermediate edges will be there? At most 5 edges, and this M will be always less than or equal to N minus 1. And if there are 2 vertices, 1 edge. 3 vertices, maximum 2 edge. And here also remember that you are not visiting a city more than once. You are visiting a city exactly once. Okay, no revisit. And here, if I equal to J, that is vertex 1, I to 1 to 1, then P has weight 0 and no edge. If I not equal to J, that means 1 to 2, 1 to 4, 1 to 5 like that, then we can decompose the path P into I to K and K to J. K is actually an intermediate vertex you are visiting. You are traveling from I to J through K. Then I to K is the path P dash. And then P dash will be having at most M edge. And this is the last edge. K to J is the direct edge. Then this simple you can see. This is a path consisting of many edges. This is a direct path. K to J is the direct path. And here we have formulated that vertex I to vertex J at most M edge. You can see that at most M edge and M will be less than or equal to N minus 1. Okay, you can see if there are 2 vertices, then 1 to 2, at most how many edges will be there? M. M means n minus 1. The upper bound of M will be n minus 1. Number of vertices is 2. 2 minus 1, 1. Only one edge. Like that you have to correlate. And therefore, the last edge, at most M edge, and one edge is already here. Therefore, P dash will be having how many edges? M minus 1 edge. And moreover, the substructure is I to K should also be the shortest path. You have checked each path is shortest for traveling or proceeding from I to K. That is actually the optimal substructure. If you are jumping from I to a vertex, okay, say X dash, then you are ensuring that I to X dash is the shortest path, then X dash to X double dash is the shortest path, X double dash to X triple dash is the shortest path. Finally, you reach K. That means P dash is also going to be the shortest path from I to K. Then the shortest path, the shortest distance from I to J, how we are going to represent? Delta is the symbol for representing the shortest way. Delta I comma J, shortest path from I to J. Delta I comma J is equal to shortest path from I to K. Delta I comma K, that will give you the weight of the shortest path from I to K plus the weight of the last edge K to J, where delta Ij equal to delta Ik plus Wkj, where delta Ij denote the shortest path path from I to J. Okay, is it clear? This is actually the structure of the optimal solution. This is how we are going to formulate the structure. And this one is very important. If I not equal to J, definitely we have traveled from I to J through some intermediate vertices, and assume that we have reached K, then K to J, there is a direct shortest path. Then this will be I to J, that most, how many edges? M edges, where M is less than or equal to N minus 1. That is also important. Okay, you have to see it. And this one will be I to K will be the shortest path. This should also be the shortest path. And the shortest weight from delta I to J, shortest weight path from I to J will be shortest weight path from I to K, that weight plus the weight of the last traveling, that is K to J. Okay, this is the structure of the optimal solution. At each subproblem I to K, you are finding a suboptimal value, and each one, each subproblem you are having an optimal answer. Okay, and here the recursive definition to all pair shortest path. This is actually a dynamic programming approach. And here Lij, L stands for the length of the path from I to J, where at most M edges are involved. Minimum weight of any path from I to J that contains at most M edges. This is the notation explanation. Then for 0 means 0 edge. And 0 edge means that vertex is equal to itself, I equal to J, then that will be 0. Then if I not equal to J, then that is going to be infinite. Okay, involving 0 edge. Then Lij M, at most M edge means there is a path consisting of M minus 1 edge and a path consisting of the last edge, Wkj. This will be minimum of I to J is the path we are splitting through the intermediate vertex K. Then I to K, that is the distance involving M minus 1 edge plus the last edge weight path Wkj. This is the equation. This is the recursive definition. This will characterize, this will actually mark to the second point of the dynamic programming. The first point is optimal substructure. Define the optimal substructure. Once we define the optimal substructure, remember that we have to define a recursive function for solving or getting the final answer. And this recursive definition is through the path. The path from I to J will be the shortest path from I to K plus the last edge weight cost. Then this I to K, again you can split it in terms of this. And just like always, students, please remember any familiar recursive definition. Just like factorial or Fibonacci. If it is a factorial, n factorial is equal to n minus 1 factorial into n. And this n minus 1 factorial is again n minus 1 into n minus 2 factorial. And the recursive definition, each time The left hand side is expanded, repeated on the right hand side with a smaller value. And here also Lik m minus 1 will be again splitted into m minus 2 plus the last edge. M minus 2 will be m minus 3 plus the last edge. And we will be going like that. But here the thing is, we are actually following a bottom-up fashion. We will be first building 0, then 1, then 2, then we will be proceeding like that. And this is actually how we characterize the recursive definition. Okay. Okay, fine. Any doubts, you can note it down. Okay, please. And this is actually the recursive definition. And this is actually a Floyd-Warshall algorithm. This is also a dynamic programming structure. And the optimal substructure defined previously, that has been actually modified here. And the structure of the shortest path, the same thing only. And assume that the vertices are numbered from 1 to n. Then for any pair of vertices ij, consider all paths from I to j whose intermediate vertices are drawn from 1, 2, k. And let P be the minimum weight path among them. Okay, this is important. Okay, this is actually very important. And this is the observation. This is the important observation and the structure of shortest path in Floyd-Warshall algorithm. For any pair of vertices I and j, you have to consider all paths from I to j, where whose intermediate vertices are drawn from. If k is the intermediate one, numbered one, then highest numbered one, then 1 to k. All the intermediate vertices are drawn from 1 to k. And let P be the minimum weight path among them. And if k is not in P, then intermediate vertices will be 1 to k minus 1. If k is an intermediate vertex, then the path will be splitting into I to k and k to j as discussed before. I to k is P1 and k to j is P2. Both P1 and P2 are shortest path, and the intermediate vertices in P1 and P2 both are drawn from 1 to k minus 1, 1 to k minus 1, because k is already there. Okay, this is a common situation. And if k is sometimes the shortest path does not pass through k, then k won't be an intermediate vertex. Then all the intermediate vertices will be drawn from the set 1 to k minus 1. And here k is the number of the vertices. Here the important thing, the numbering is very important. We are numbering the vertices from 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay. And here you can see that either P passes through the vertex K or P does not pass through the vertex K. These are the two situations we are encountering here. Either P passes through the vertex K. Here you can see that P is passing through the vertex K, or P does not pass through the vertex K. Okay. The recursive definition, as k increases from 0 to n, initially k will be 0, then k will be 1, passing through 1, k is 2, passing through 2, k is 3, passing through 3. Then we build up the solution for the all pair shortest path problem. The base is k equal to 0 means no intermediate vertices are allowed, and it is easy. And the representations are very important. Two vertices we will be using in Floyd-Warshall. And one more thing, a graph here is represented using an adjacency matrix. I hope that everybody knows adjacency matrix representation and adjacency list representation. And d raised to the 0 means it is not d raised to 0. It indicates that intermediate vertex k equal to 0. So that is no intermediate vertex. And dij means the distance from I to j with no predecessor. That is a standard definition, and this notation gives that it is a matrix with collection of all dij value. Similarly, one more matrix we will be using in Floyd-Warshall algorithm, that is a predecessor matrix, who is actually the just predecessor of j in this path, phi I to j, who is the predecessor of j in the shortest path. That path number will be, that vertex number will be stored in the matrix called phi. Pi is a predecessor matrix and d is actually the distance matrix. And dij0 is defined recursively like this. If I equal to j, that means no intermediate vertex, I equal to j means 1 to 1, it will be 0. Then 1 to 2 without no intermediate vertex, it will be actually the weight, the direct path weight. And if there is no edge, it is 0. If I equal to j, then no predecessor nil will be stored. Otherwise, the predecessor value, that is phi ij, direct path, the predecessor will be here I will be stored. There is an edge from I to j means I is going to be the predecessor. There is an edge, not a path. Path consisting of many edges. And here if there is an edge from I to j, I will be stored. I is going to be the predecessor. Okay, just like the parent. Predecessor who appears before you. Just like the parent or the predecessor. Okay, this is very important. And the same thing, the recursive definition, and here dijk, that will be the weight, and the minimum weight will be minimum of the k minus 1, just like the previous definition, or it is actually the new edge. Each time you will add I to k is the shortest path, then you are going to add an edge k to j, and whichever is the minimum addition, that we will be taking. Okay, then the observation, once again I will explain the observation. Let P be the shortest path from I to j, and when we require all intermediate vertices to come from 1 to k, then either k is an intermediate vertex or k is not an intermediate vertex. This is the important observation in Floyd Varsha. And if k is not an intermediate vertex, as I explained, all the intermediate vertices are actually coming from 1 to k minus 1. Okay, remember that they are actually the vertex numbering. And if k is an intermediate vertex, there is a path I to k and k to j. Both are actually the shortest path. And this is actually the recursive definition. Wij if k equal to 0, if k greater than or equal to 1, whichever is the minimum path, that we have to consider. And this is the algorithm. This is the algorithm. Here we are constructing two matrices, d and pi, the distance and pi. The initialization is the direct one. Okay, I will explain this algorithm after seeing an example. Consider, okay, this example is a simple example. Everybody can easily understand. This is actually the adjacency matrix representation. And this is going to be a square matrix 4 by 4. When k equal to 0, there are no intermediate vertex. And you can see all the diagonal entries are 0. That is A to A. A is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and this is 4. You can renumber as them 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then A to A, B to B, C to C, D to D, everything will be 0 here. You can see that everything is going to be 0 here. Then A to B, see if there is a direct path. A to B, there is a direct path, that 12 we will be entering here. A to C also there is a direct path, 4 we will be entering. A to D, there is no direct path. Therefore, what we have to enter? Infinity. This is as per the definition. Dijk, when k equal to 0, it will be actually the weight of the direct path. And if k greater than or equal to 1, that means you are having an intermediate vertex like this. Then the path will be I to j will be going from I to k and k to j. Then you have to consider all possibilities. Otherwise, it is the direct edge. And here you can see the direct edge path. If there is no direct edge path, we will be putting a very large value as the initial one, that is infinite. And similarly, B to A 6, B to B 0, B to C, there is no direct edge, infinity, B to D also 8. And here I have seen the construction of only the D matrix. And if there is a pi matrix, you will be entering A to C, there is an edge. A to C, there is an edge. And A to C, the predecessor will be A. The predecessor of C will be A. Okay, that you can enter. I have not seen here. For the second example, I have shown the predecessor matrix also. Okay, for simplicity, I thought let us first concentrate on how to compute the distance matrix. Okay, that is more important than the predecessor matrix. Okay, and here C also you can see C to A, there is no direct path, infinity. C to B, there is a direct path 3, C to C 0, C to D, there is no direct path, infinity. Then D to A, there is no direct path, infinity. Then D to B, there is a direct path 10. Then D to C, there is a direct path 2. D to D, it is 0. And this is actually when k equal to 0. There is no intermediate vertex. When k equal to 1, there is an intermediate vertex, and 1 is actually A. And any updation to the previous matrix. This is the distance matrix. You have to see, are you getting any better distances, any shorter distances than this first values? Okay. And the one location we are getting a better value that has been showed in displayed in red color here. Here you can see B to C, there were no direct edge. B to C, there is no direct edge. Now via A, B to C, there is a path. B to A and A to C. The sum of the path, the weight of this path will be sum of the edges from B to A and A to C. That is 6 plus 4. Then now this infinity is greater than 10. 10 is a smaller value, therefore 10 will be written there. Infinity is replaced with 10. You can see. And there are no more updates to any of the entries. One value got updated. And now we are going for k equal to 2. And here also I equal to a. I equal to a. Then here you can see a to d. A equal to 2 via b. You can see here a to d. There is a change. Previously, what was the value a to d? There is no direct edge. That was infinite. Now, through one intermediate vertex 2, you are getting a value a, b, and d. You are getting a value 12. It is 12 plus 8, 20. You are getting a value via from b. K equal to 2 via b. You are getting a value 20. Okay, one update here. One more update will be there. One more update. C to A and C to D. C to A, what was the previous value? C to A infinity and C to D infinity, because there were no direct edges. C to A and C to D. Now you can see C to A via B, there is a path. Or K equal to 2 is actually B. C to B, C to A via B, there is a path. 3 plus 6, 9. And C to D also there is a path. C, B, D. 3 plus 10, 3 plus 8 actually, sorry, it's not 10. 3 plus 8, that is actually 11. Okay, 2 updates. Then another thing, the previous one, there are all the rows are getting updated. D to A also there were no direct edge. Now via B, you can find a D to A edge. D to B and B to A. That means 60. Okay. That means k equal to 0. Once again, I will explain the example. K equal to 0, no intermediate vertex. You are getting the direct adjacency matrix or the weight matrix. Okay, when k equal to 1, you can see via the vertex 1. A is actually 1. Via the vertex 1, any updates? We got 1 update. When k equal to 2, we are getting all the rows are getting updated. K equal to 2. Then k equal to 3 means via 3. Via C, is there any updates? One update, actually you can see here A to B, where is B? A to B, the weight was actually 12. Then if k equal to, if k equal to 3 means the intermediate vertex is C. Then you can see A to B, there is a path through C. A to C 4 and C to B is 7. And 7 is actually lesser value than 12. Then 12 is replaced with 7. It is a shortest path. Got it? Now k equal to 3. That is why it is a dynamic programming, a tabular approach. You will be updating. You will be constructing it a bottom-up fashion. You can't directly go for k equal to 3 or k equal to 4. It is actually systematically proceeded. Okay. Then k equal to 3. One more updates. Previously A to D, the value was 20. Now it will be getting updated. You can see A to D via C, the value gets updated. Previously it was via B. Therefore 12 plus 8, 20 was there. Now via C, there is a shortest path. A to B is actually 4 plus 3, 7. 7 plus 8, 50. That is also getting updated. Now this is actually k to 4, k equal to 4, there is no meaning because only 4 vertices. Therefore, k equal to 1, k equal to 2 and k equal to 3. And this is the example we are considering here. Okay, our time is almost getting over and you can see this is the same example given, solved example in the textbook form. That's why I have taken a simple example this. With this you have understood how we are adjusting that, and this is the algorithm. This is the algorithm getting updated. For j equal to 1 to n, dij k. For k is also 1 to n. Dij k will be minimum of previously existing value. Which value was there in the table, whether that is minimum or the new computed value is minimum through the intermediate vertex k. K can vary from 1 to n minus 1, right? then k can vary from 0 to n minus 1. Therefore, when this is vector or this is minimum, that value will be taken. And this is especially for the predecessor matrix. How you are storing the predecessor matrix. This is the heart of the statement. This is the recursive definition actually. Okay. I hope that is clear. And the second example given, that is also solved in the PPT. You can see that everything has been shown in red mark, whichever one is going there. Here also you can see the predecessor is also there. The predecessor matrix is also there. And here the predecessor 1 to t, the weight is 3, and the 1 to 2, the predecessor will be 1. The predecessor matrix will be denoted for D0, D1, everything. Therefore, predecessor will also be having a value pi 0, pi 1 and all. And here there are 5 vertices. Therefore, finally it will be D5 and pi 5. How many vertices were there? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And therefore, all the vertices will be there. And you can finally with this will give you the predecessor in the shortest path. And this will help you to print the all pair shortest path. Using this matrix only, you will be displaying the final answer if you implement this. That is the purpose of this one. Okay. Why there is D and pi? Okay. Okay, Sham. Why there is D and pi means D is actually the distance matrix. D will give you the distance from that to I to j. Then if you want to print all the intermediate vertices involved in I to j, you need pi 5. Here you can see the predecessor of this is actually 1 to 2. 1 to 2, the shortest path 2. The predecessor is 3. Then that predecessor will be getting from here. Then 4. Like this, we will be constructing the finally. If you are implementing this, then it will be giving you. From this matrix only, you can display the shortest path. This will give you the weight only. This will give you who are involved, which cities are involved. That is why the predecessor numbers are getting stored here. Okay. Okay, my dear students, here I am actually stopping. And one more thing I would like to mention. Firstly, this Floyd-Warshall algorithm was he designed it for transitive closure of a graph, and later he modified it for finding the all pair shortest path problem. If you have any interest, you can refer the transitive closure also. That is also there in the PPT. I hope it won't be asking for the examination. It's just for your information. For your examination, this example is enough how to construct the distance matrix and the predecessor matrix. Okay. And if at all this predecessor will give you the predecessor, who is the just predecessor of the path. You can see this old example. It will clearly give you the predecessor. 1 to 2, the predecessor will be who is appearing before 2. It is actually 1. 1, 2, 3 means, sorry, 1, 2, 4. The predecessor of 4 is actually 2. Who is appearing just before that? Then who is appearing just before that? Like that, the predecessor will be going. D is actually the distance and pi actually represents the predecessor. If it is city A to city C, then the predecessor, who is actually the predecessor before C? Before visiting C, where were you? Suppose it is B. A to C is via D. ADC is the shortest path. Then the predecessor of C will be D in the shortest path. Therefore, pi will be showing you the sequence of predecessors. So actually this dynamic programming and all pair shortest path problem, to complete these two topics, we need minimum 2 hours. And I know that I have taken it in 1 hour. And to understand in a better manner, I request all of you to go through the textbook, Introduction to Algorithms by Forman, Lielsen and Rivest. There is a chapter named Dynamic Programming, and there is another chapter named Shortest Path Problem, that is Single Source Shortest Path. Then there is another chapter, All Pair Shortest Path. This was actually the continuation, and I don't know how many of you are followed or coming through these sequences. That may be the reason initially some of you may get some trouble in getting the ideas very clear. But don't worry, I assure you that this is a simple topic, and this all pair shortest path problem has got an application in our real life also, and it is a really good application and really good algorithm. And the complexity of the Floyd-Warshall algorithm is big O of B cube, and this is better for pretty lengthy graph as an input size. Okay, this works well for medium sized graph. Thank you, my dear students, for your patient hearing.
Thank you so much, Smita ma'am, for today's class. We are grateful for the time and effort you have took to handle the class. It was very informative and helpful session. And once again, thank you so much. And thank you all for joining with us today. Thank you.